Holy Gospel according to Luke. Now, on that day, that same day, when Jesus had appeared to Mary Magdalene, 2 disciples were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them. But their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these days?" Jesus asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since these things took place. Moreover, some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it, just as the women had said, but they did not see him." Then Jesus said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into glory?" Then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. As they came near the village to which they were going, Jesus walked ahead as if he were going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning with this talking to us on the road, while he was opening scriptures to us?" That same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road, and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. The Gospel of the Lord. When I did my Clinical Pastoral Education at Maine Medical Center, I vividly remember one of my patients, a dear elderly Episcopal man who was dying. This man touched my heart deeply. I will never forget the day I read to him today's story from Luke's Gospel. After I finished reading, he said to me, "There's always an Emmaus." The next day, my friend died, but I shall always remember what he said in response to that story. There is always an Emmaus. Biblical archeologists tell us that the exact location of the village of Emmaus is unknown. There are at least 9 possible locations that are candidates for the small biblical town. But historians tell us there is no record of any village called Emmaus in any other ancient source. We simply do not know where Emmaus might have been. Tradition tells us that it might have been a place just a few hours' walk from Jerusalem. However, New Testament scholars Marcus Borg and John Dominic Crossan suggest that Emmaus is nowhere. Emmaus is nowhere precisely because Emmaus is everywhere. Every one of us has at one time or another, indeed for some of us many times, traveled along the road to Emmaus. Yes, there is always an Emmaus. I know that I have been on the road to Emmaus most of my life. I've had lots of company on that road to Emmaus, as many others with me, taking me to a deeper understanding of Scripture and a deeper understanding of faith in the risen Christ. Like Cleopas and his companion who traveled the road to Emmaus while broken and grieving, I have made that journey in a state of confusion, bewilderment, and brokenness. And as I have traveled that road, the risen Christ has been present, speaking to me through my companions in the conversations we have had. You see, I have always had questions, and I have voraciously wanted to learn more and go deeper in my understanding of faith, religion, and indeed life. I have always loved to discuss the important things of life, and I have always had this insatiable appetite and hunger that burns within me as I want to better understand the deeper truths regarding faith, God's presence to us, and what that means for our understanding of the world, sociology, culture, science, my life, and our lives as people of faith. Yes, there is always an Emmaus. And yes, I have traveled that road most of my life. Learning about this earth, the planet on which we live, and the natural world has also been an Emmaus journey for me. Last Wednesday was Earth Day, and today was the Sunday the Green Team was going to lead worship as we celebrate this earth, this gorgeous planet on which we live, and the risen, universal presence to us in all of creation. For the past 50 years, the world has set aside April 22nd to think about the gift we have been given in this home we call Mother Earth. Earth Day almost always falls during our liturgical season of Easter. So it is fitting that as we celebrate the resurrected Jesus, we celebrate Earth Day. During this time, we are reminded that we celebrate the one who was born so that we could know God's presence in our world and in our flesh. The God who suffered and continues to suffer the burdens and sorrows and pains of our world, even the pains of this suffering creation. Easter is about new life and the risen Christ bringing forth new life. And friends, that is not simply some kind of disembodied life that only awaits us in some future consummation. It is the first fruits, the seed that rises as a green blade and bears fruit. In the northern hemisphere where we live, Easter arrives with the signs and symbols of spring, the flowers and the songs of the returning birds. As we pay attention to these signs and symbols, this focus can become one of the ways in which we discover the risen Christ among us. We discover we are deeply and inextricably connected to creation and recreation, to our Creator and this earth. So yes, we observe and celebrate Earth Day in the church. The ELCA has had a focus on caring for creation since our denomination was formed. And as we mark 50 years of this Earth Day celebration, we also must look ahead. We look to the 11 remaining years before it is too late to stop a 2 degrees Celsius temperature rise for our planet. We know that a commitment to address this issue needs to happen now. We know that it takes all people across the globe, people of all religions, to work together to adapt, to mitigate what is coming, and provide the necessary change that is urgent. Over 97% of climate scientists in the world are warning us and telling us what we need to do now. And in fact, some of them are members of our own faith community. They are prophets in our time. And if we truly care for our neighbor, we need to listen to their message and respond appropriately. As people of faith, this response is something that is rooted in our faith, and it is all about living out our love for our neighbors. As I said, our green team was going to focus on this today, but our lives have been interrupted and disrupted by this COVID-19 virus. And as we listen to the scientists regarding both this virus and climate change, we need to face a deeper truth that the disruption we now face is only a foretaste of the disruption we will likely face if the world does not address the issue of climate change. Most scientists agree that addressing climate change is the most important task for humanity. But there is hope. We can do this. When we look at the way the world has come together to act and address COVID-19, it gives us hope that we can also come together to address climate change. As Christians, we name love as an act of ultimate importance. Friends, love includes addressing climate change and caring for this planet. Just as honoring the stay-at-home order and practicing social distancing is all about loving our neighbor, caring for this earth and working to make a difference is also all about loving our neighbor. The impending impacts are so catastrophic, and our window of time is getting short. As people created by God and placed in relationship with all of creation, all the threatened creatures, from the most vulnerable human populations to species endangered by extinction and ecosystems moving toward collapse, there is so much at stake. Rooted in Scripture and our understanding of the risen, universal Christ, we can draw on all that Jesus did and taught in the context of our beautiful, life-giving, and threatened world. Resurrection takes place in bodies and is encountered in and through bodies. And the encounters are not limited to human bodies, but to other forms of life and matter around us. Our Emmaus journey can help us see more clearly that we are enmeshed in the communion of the planet and the cosmos. We can allow our hearts to burn within us as we too walk with the risen one and have our eyes open to our deep connectedness to this earth. We can have our eyes open to recognize and discern through words and conversations with scientists, by actions of gratitude, and even in the simple but sacred ritual of breaking and sharing bread. Friends, there is always an Emmaus. At the heart of the Emmaus story is an urging towards a deeper faith, to recognize and discern, not just see. Like Cleopas and his companion, we need to open our eyes to what is before us. As ecological readers of today's gospel, this means being attentive to the material, to matter itself as we look at this world, to be eyewitnesses to everything we see around us, and to grow and mature in our understanding so that we recognize the relationships that form our earth community. And as we learn and grow and mature, we are on the road to Emmaus. Yes, there is always an Emmaus. We sing together our hymn of the day, Only You, O God.